The Great Barrier Reef by Peyton Harris and Ali Calvo. This is a picture of the Great Barrier Reef.
Types of organisms and what phylum they are a part of. The Great Barrier Reef is home to more than 1,500 species of fish, 411 types of hard coral, 1/3 of the world's soft corals, 134 species of sharks and rays, 6 of the world's 7 species of threatened marine turtles, and more than 30 species of marine mammals.
These are types of organisms continued. So 4 of the phylums you can find in the Great Barrier Reef are Chordata, Mollusca, Porifera, and Cnidaria. For Chordata, you can find clownfish, sharks, and sea turtles, etc. And Mollusca, you can find octopus, squid, giant clams, etc. Porifera, it's sponges, so it's like calcareous sponge, siliceous sponge, and demasponge. And in Cnidaria, there's corals, hydras, and jellyfish.
Plants and other animals in the ecosystem. Different types of algae, sea grasses, and sea lettuce are very common plants found in the Great Barrier Reef. One of the most important plants in the Great Barrier Reef is a type of algae called Crustose coralline algae. It forms a symbiotic relationship with coral. The Great Barrier Reef is a refuge for many species of conservation concern. These species of conservation concern include inshore dolphins, whales, dugongs, sawfish, sea snakes, marine turtles, and some fish and sharks.
Location. The Great Barrier Reef is the largest coral reef system in the world. The reef is located off the coast of Queensland, Australia, in the Coral Sea, and it stretches for 1,429 miles over an area of approximately 133,000 square miles.
Temperature and depth of water. Temperature. Temperatures are pretty steady throughout the year with an average maximum of 30 degrees Celsius and a minimum of 21 degrees Celsius. Rising sea temperatures mean the reef is at a greater risk of heat stress and mass coral bleaching, decreasing the capacity for corals to build skeletons.
Depth of water. The Great Barrier Reef has an average depth of 35 meters in its inshore waters, while on outer reefs, continental slopes extend down to depths more than 2,000 meters. How the Great Barrier Reef gets its nutrients. The Great Barrier Reef receives nutrients from Coral Sea via upwelling and from the land and the river runoff. Levels of these nutrients get too high when excess amounts are washed into sea from the land. Since European settlement, the total nutrients load has increased dramatically. Annual discharge of nutrients into the Great Barrier Reef has more than doubled since European settlement. Nutrients generally flow into the sea and run off in one of 2 ways, as particles carried by the water or actually dissolved in the water.
Threats and concerns. Climate change, water quality, and crown of thorns starfish. Climate change. 2 of the greatest challenges brought by climate change is an increase in ocean temperatures and acidity levels. Water quality. Declining marine and coastal water quality, influenced by land-based runoff, is recognized as one of the most significant threats to the long-term health and resilience of the Great Barrier Reef. Crown of thorns starfish. They tend to eat the faster-growing corals, which gives the slower-growing species a chance to catch up, enhancing the coral diversity of our reefs. However, when the coral-eating starfish appear in outbreak proportions, the impact on coral reefs can be disastrous. Protection or restoration efforts. Australia has pledged $500 million to protect the World Heritage Great Barrier Reef. In recent years, the reef has lost 30% of its coral due to bleaching linked to rising temperatures and damage from crown of thorns starfish. The funding will be used to reduce the runoff of agriculture, pesticides, and improve the water quality.
Thanks! Does anyone have any questions?